Video's got a bit of a possibility of going quite long, so we've got a lot to cover. So with that in mind, let me get us started straight away. We are interested in evaluating the impact of sponsorship and media on these 5 groups. So let's go straight away. Let's imagine we've got some performers. Now these could be rugby players, they could be table tennis players. It depends on the sport that we're looking at. They could be gymnasts. We want to know that if sponsorship and media is involved in the activity, what are the goods and the bads about that thing. So let's start with the good. These people may well get free equipment and clothing. Well, that sounds all right. I'd love one of them. Okay, so that's a good thing. Really quite positive, right? Bit of sponsorship that way. What else is positive? They also get more money. And that more money can go towards things like coaches, can go towards things like facilities, okay? So they can actually improve their performance because they are actually receiving a better income through, for example, that sponsorship. They're also going to be paid to wear a brand, okay? So they're going to be, and this comes back to that first part there. It's not just that they get the free stuff, but they get paid to wear Adidas or Nike or whatever it happens to be. They experience up arrow, better, higher wages. They get paid more. Who doesn't want that? They can also become heroes and role models, okay? So because the media portrays these people to the public, often via TV, internet, they become role models and heroes. That, of course, it leads into this possibility to increase more. And I've mentioned already more money for better quality coaching and facilities. Now, there are negatives. Let's put these in. We get increased up arrow pressure to win, okay? So because there's more money involved, because there's more eyes on it, because sponsors require you to do well, there's more pressure to go out and perform. They might have to change the times that they compete. So think about the number of times a footballer, for example, has to play with only 2 days break because the TV show requires them to do that, for example, or it suits maybe an international audience. Then negative behaviour is highlighted. So if somebody does something wrong, a performer does something wrong, that gets discussed to an endless degree. Negative behaviour highlighted. So if you swear on TV, if you do something worse, that's gonna be sort of turned in. Let's use this word. That's gonna be turned into a scandal, and you're potentially going to be affected by that scandal. Other things, let me try and get stuff out here. Lack of privacy. I think social media has probably emphasised that and increased that. Look at the technology video. We talk about that a little bit. Sponsors can be controlling. So we put that over here. Sponsors control. So, they might want you to take a break from your training to go and do something that is beneficial to them. For example, they have very high expectations. Let me sort of link it off here. I've got high, oops, I'm not sure that's actually on the screen. High, that's an up arrow, expectations. And it's hard if you're a human being, it's hard to live up to these expectations in the public eye all the time, right? You've got to be a real person. Let me just drag down. And to finish this off with regard to the performer, we've also got things such as you have to have time out. I've mentioned this one already, time out of schedule, to go and fulfill media requirements, travel around, do press conferences or whatever. And you have to also answer to the media. Now imagine you've just lost in a boxing match or a rugby final or whatever, and you've got to go and answer questions. It might not be the thing that you really feel like doing. Let's think about Spectators. How does this sort of commercialization model affect those? And guys, I am aware there's going to be a slightly longer video than normal, but we're going to get lots done, okay? So what about Spectators? Well, of course, they get up arrow more coverage because the media is covering it. That for the Spectator is really positive, isn't it, right? They also get up arrow quality coverage, okay? So think about the type of streaming services. We could be talking about 4K, 5K streaming, lots of interaction. We also get lots of sporting storylines, okay? So people can sort of use, therefore, sport as entertainment during the week when there's competitions going on. They can sort of get involved in that storytelling. We've also got this sort of notion that there's better play. Think about the investment that goes into sport, therefore the players are better, the competition is higher. And also we've got better stadia. So let me just put this down here. Improved or better stadia, so think about new stadia that are being built in numerous sports. They become better because there's investment in those things. But of course there are negatives here as well. We've said already, event timings change to suit not necessarily the local audience, could be an international audience, or to suit the TV audience. So event timings change. So that tradition gets lost. It's expensive. Think about the expense of, let's say, having a BT Sport and a Sky Sports subscription or whatever it is that people are buying on, DAZN or whatever it happens to be, right? The other thing is that ticket prices go up. Increased price of tickets. Okay, so ticket prices go up because popularity is higher, so the traditional fan sort of has to fork out more money. Merchandise becomes expensive. I mean, nothing more criminal than the price of like Premier League football replica kits, right? Merchandise more expensive. I mean, it's ridiculous. I actually looked at a football shirt recently for a young cousin of mine, and it was a ludicrous fee. Gave him a voucher in the end. ASOS, Anyway, let's keep going here. We've also, these spectators might also have limited food and drink choices. So if they go to a stadium and Coca-Cola is a sponsor, of course, that's all they're going to get access to, isn't it? Something like that. So let's take this further. We've done performers. We've done spectators. We're now going to talk about the sport itself. Is it good or bad for a sport? Let's address that. So the sport gets more up arrow money. We could say increased investment. Of course, that's positive. We get the sport being more public. Okay? It's more known. It lasts. It survives. It doesn't die because people are aware of it through the media. Sport is forced to modernise. Sport modernises. There's lots of examples of this. The one that I think of is cricket going towards T20. And what's the 100? Sport modernises. And without that sort of TV influence, maybe that wouldn't happen unless that sort of influence was there. And it becomes global. Okay, so the market that the sport has always had, which maybe is a local market, becomes a global market, and of course that's then the possibility of increased wealth. Now, for sport, we get a loss of tradition, which is a negative. So the traditional values of the sport might be lost. Now, I don't know what that sounds like to sort of a 15, 16-year-old here. And you might think, oh, whatever. But actually, people are really wedded to these ideas, aren't they? They don't want things to change necessarily. Other points. It turns sport into entertainment. Now, again, you can see that as positive, but the value of sport is often intrinsic. It's like the beauty of it and the competition of it. And we might lose that for the stories. We get sort of negative stories for the sports published as well. So think about cycling and athletics and drugs problems, okay? So let's link off and say like PEDs would be a good example of this. Like really tarnishes the reputation of the sport. And we also get rule changes. Okay, the rules themselves have to change to be more sort of media relevant, or they need to be sort of more watchable. And finally, we get the sport can be linked to unhealthy things, to unhealthy. So think about the madness of this. McDonald's sponsoring the Olympic Games. I mean, or partnering. I think they call it sponsoring, partnering the Olympic Games. It doesn't seem right, does it? So there we go. Got the sport. Let's look at the officials. We're nearly there, guys. Thanks for hanging in with me. If you got to this point, you're doing great. Hang in. I'll see if I can make it as lighthearted as I can before we finish this off. Lots of information. Positives for commercialisation in the media, guys. What have we got? Well, first of all, we've got increased investment. Okay, so this leads to better training. So the officials have got more money that can be put towards them, that they can be trained to be better officials. That's really positive, right? They become full-time. Let's refer to that as being professional. So people can actually be a professional umpire, a professional referee, a professional line judge, a professional scorer. These are good things. We also get more up arrow technology to support. Think about all the examples of technology that's supporting umpires and referees at the moment. I'm sure you can name things like Hawkeye, VAR, TMO, Eagle Eye, ball tracking, Ultra Edge I've heard of recently. There's all kinds of stuff that helps them do this. So, negatives. Poor decisions are highlighted. So, if a referee messes it up and disallows something or whatever, or gives someone out, poor decisions, they get highlighted and people know, wow, that person made a mess of that and they got the wrong decision. That's disappointing. There's increased pressure, so up arrow pressure. Everything's going to be reviewed and analysed, so that must be tricky, I would imagine. It also has financial implications, okay? So imagine that a referee, umpire in whatever sport makes one of those wrong decisions, and that has sort of like, relegation or losing type impact. That could have a real financial impact for the referee because they might not get to do that job again because it would sully their reputation, right? And they also have a loss of control. Okay. What do we mean by this loss of control? We're really talking about technology. Technology kind of, and the technology around the media especially, could mean that control is lost. Now, finally, guys, we're very nearly there, and we're going to finish off here with the sponsor. So the sponsor themselves, the company, the service that is putting in the money. Why do they do? What's positive for them? Well, they get up arrow, increased brand awareness. You know, something becomes a household name because it's advertised on the football or in between halftime of the Super Bowl or whatever it happens to be. Therefore, you get up arrow, increased profit. Okay, so the product, we could, by the way, this is a nice term for you to use, ROI. Companies do it because they make a return on investment. Nice term for you to use if you're able to do it. Their product is also linked to health. So I mentioned McDonald's earlier on. All of a sudden, McDonald's is linked to the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games is healthy, right? McDonald's must be healthy, right? Well, maybe it is sometimes and maybe it isn't. And the other thing is that it's also linked to winning. Okay, now that is not always controllable, of course, because we don't know who's going to win. But the product could be linked to winning as well. Now, we do have negatives for the sponsor. I mean, you won't be surprised to these. There's no guarantee. And what we mean by that no guarantee, there is no guarantee whatsoever of profit, for example. They just don't know. There's no guarantee of winning, for example. They just don't know. But finally, the athlete or the team, let's say, it depends on what we're sponsoring, may be deviant. And what we mean by that is maybe they become violent, maybe they have an out of sport scandal, maybe they take performance enhancing drugs. And of course, they're no longer linked to winning and health, they're linked to scandal and cheating. So that, of course, could be really, really negative for the sponsor. That's all from me. Well done for sticking in there.